Do you like tongue twisters? Did you know that they are more than just a fun word game? Did you know that a couple of them are based on real people? Would you like to know the stories behind them? Do give the tongue twisters in this video a shot. If you mess up, don't worry, you're in good company. Before we go any further, do like, follow, subscribe to The English Nut on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube respectively. Thanks. I remember a wonderful road trip around Europe in my childhood. To keep my brothers and me occupied, my parents gave us a book of tongue twisters. Tongue twisters are sentences or phrases designed to trip you up when you repeat them fast and often. But they're not just fun and games. Actors, news anchors and politicians use them to warm up, and students use them to improve the clarity of their speech and diction. There are some great tongue twisters coming up in this video. Try them out. Don't take them too seriously though. Think of them as a word game. Have a laugh if they come out wrong. That way you'll become more fluent while having fun, which is what The English Nut is all about. If some of the tongue twisters don't make sense to you, it's because they are not designed to make sense, but rather to tie your tongue in knots. Though surprisingly, a couple of them are based on real life stories. The evergreen Peter Piper tongue twister first appeared in 1813 in a book called Peter Piper's Practical Principles of Plain and Perfect Pronunciation. The title of the book is itself a tongue twister. Peter Piper's Practical Principles of Plain and Perfect Pronunciation. Now I'm going to introduce you to the actual Peter Piper tongue twister. But before that, may I suggest that you pause the video after I narrate the tongue twister and try to repeat it at speed. Do the same thing for the other twisters I introduce later on as well. Let me also take this opportunity to thank my guinea pigs, kind friends, who sportingly agreed to get their tongues in a twist. You'll shortly see what I mean. And now here's Peter Piper. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? And now let's see how our volunteers fare.
Peter Piper picked
Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers.
A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked.
If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled pipe? Okay, I'm doing it again.
If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers.
If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled...
Where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked?
If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked?
The character Peter Piper is based on a real person, a French missionary and botanist called Pierre Poivre. The Dutch used to control the spice trade. In 1770, Pierre smuggled clove and nutmeg plants and seeds out of the Dutch Spice Islands and cultivated them successfully in what are known today as Mauritius and Reunion Island, helping break the monopoly. Pierre's surname Poivre is French for pepper, which became a catch-all term for spices. A peck is a unit of measurement, and thus it was that Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. The first tongue twister I ever learned was the one that goes, "She sells seashells." It started life as a diction exercise in 1850. At that time, the term tongue twister didn't even exist. It was almost half a century later, in 1895, that the term surfaced. And now, more than 170 years after it was created, let's give it a try. She sells seashells by the seashore. The shells she sells are seashells, I'm sure. And if she sells seashells on the seashore, then I'm sure she sells seashore shells. The alternation of the S and SH sounds makes this tricky, and you usually end up switching the two sounds and saying them in precisely the wrong places. Let's see what our volunteers make of it.
Seashells by the seashore.
The shells she sells are shells.
Then I'm sure she sells seashore shells.
Then I'm sure she sells seashore shells. I'm not trying that one again.
I'll do it again. She sells seashells by the seashore. The seashells are seashells, I'm sure. And if she sells seashells on the seashore, then I'm sure she sells seashore shells.
It has been theorized but not proven that this tongue twister too was based on an actual person, namely Mary Anning, an English fossil hunter and paleontologist who became world famous for her discoveries in Jurassic marine fossil beds in the cliffs along the English Channel in southwest England. She Sells Seashells was reinvented as a popular song in 1908 with music by Harry Gifford and lyrics by Terry Sullivan. The next tongue twister, another popular and old one, uses alliteration and rhyme with the same sounds repeated in different sequences to confuse the heck out of your mouth. Betty Botter bought some butter, but she said the butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But a bit of better butter will make my batter better. So 'twas better Betty Botter bought a bit of better butter. Now let's listen to our panel of expert volunteers.
I'm super nervous, but here goes. Betty Botter bought some butter, but she said the butter's bitter.
Betty Botter bought some butter, but she said the butter's bitter.
If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter.
But a bit of better butter will make my batter better.
So it was better Betty bought a bit of better butter. I think I got that right.
Originally titled The Butter Betty Bought, this tongue twister was written by American writer and poet Carolyn Wells. The version that I have in this video is the one I learned as a kid and is a bit different from what Wells originally wrote. Published in 1899, it later became a part of the Mother Goose collection of nursery rhymes. An astounding fact about Wells is that she wrote 170 books in her lifetime. That's called prolific. The next tongue twister is an American one as well. It's about an animal called a groundhog or woodchuck. The tongue twister uses alliteration with a bunch of w, ch and ud sounds all jumbled up to trip you up. Listen. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck? If a woodchuck could chuck wood, he would chuck, he would, as much as he could, and chuck as much wood as a woodchuck would if a woodchuck could chuck wood. The phrase originated in 1902 in the Woodchuck Song, written by Robert Hobart Davis for the musical comedy called The Runaways. And to answer the question posed by it, in reality, woodchucks don't chuck wood at all. Oh, I almost forgot our volunteer friends. Let's look in on them.
I'm really bad at this one, okay? I'm telling you in advance, I'm going to mess it up. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? He would... Okay, again.
How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if chuck could woodchuck? How much? No.
How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
He would chuck, he would, as much as he could, and chuck as much wood as a woodchuck would if a woodchuck could chuck wood.
I actually know this one. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? He would chuck he would as much as he could and chuck as much wood as a woodchuck would if a woodchuck could chuck wood.
If you know any other tongue twisters, do write them below. Do subscribe to The English Nut on YouTube. Click on the bell icon too, so you can be the first to know when my next video is published. I'm The English Nut. Bye for now.